X means survival. O means eviction or worse. In Al-Somaria, Syria's new rulers claim justice. But behind every spray-painted symbol lies a legacy of stolen land, broken lives, and forgotten promises. Is this progress? Or just old oppression in new disguise? In the dying days of August, Syrian security forces moved through the Damascus suburb of Al-Somaria with a chilling efficiency. Armed with guns, swords, and eviction orders, they carried out what would become one of the most systematic displacement operations since Assad's fall 9 months earlier. But this wasn't random violence. This was calculated, methodical, and marked by a simple code that would determine the fate of thousands. The forces spray-painted homes with black symbols. An X meant you could stay. An O meant you had 48 hours to leave. For the 22,000 residents of this almost entirely Alawite district, many of them families of former Assad soldiers, these symbols became the difference between having a home and becoming a refugee in their own country. The printed notices that Reuters reporters saw affixed to dozens of homes read,
"This is a notification to residents of illegal housing in Al-Somaria to leave their houses in no more than 48 hours or face punishment under the law."
The documents claimed authority from something called the Public Housing Committee of the General Secretariat of the Presidency of the Republic, an organization that appears to have no previous record of existence. The raids, led by an interior ministry commander known only as Abu Hud Haifa, targeted what the new Syrian government considers illegally seized land. But the operation revealed something far more complex about Syria's struggle to untangle decades of sectarian property manipulation under the Assad dynasty.
I'm a lawyer and working towards my doctorate, and even I got slapped around. I've been living in my house for 40 years. My father bought it with his blood, sweat, and tears so he could pass it on to me. I won't give it up.
The confusion was deliberate, residents say. Some homes received both X's and O's, marked by different groups of security forces during the 3-day operation from August 27th to 29th. Even families who produced ownership documents weren't safe. 2 residents told Reuters that Abu Hud Haifa dismissed their papers, telling them the documents dated back to the Assad era and were therefore invalid. Their homes still received the dreaded O. By early September, a neighborhood of 22,000 had become a ghost town of 3,000. Reuters reporters visiting on September 11th found empty streets, darkened homes, and security forces now guarding the main entrance, restricting access to what had become a symbol of Syria's unresolved past. To understand Al-Somaria's fate, you have to go back to the 1970s, when Syria's ruling family began reshaping Damascus through forced displacement and sectarian engineering. The area wasn't always called Al-Somaria. It was originally Al-Balan, farmed by residents of the adjacent Sunni suburb Muadhamiyet al-Sham, until Rifat al-Assad, brother of then-President Hafez al-Assad, appropriated the land and renamed it after his son, Somar. This wasn't unique. Members of the Assad clan systematically evicted Sunni residents from several suburbs around the capital, replacing them with cheaply constructed housing for soldiers and their families. These districts formed what became known as an Alawite belt, protecting the seat of power through demographic engineering that would poison Syrian society for generations. The toxic legacy of this system now confronts Syria's new government, led by former members of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Sunni Islamist group that helped topple Assad. The challenge is immense. How do you address decades of property expropriation without triggering more sectarian violence in a country already plagued by bloodletting against Alawite and Druze civilians? Damascus Governor Maha Marwan attempted to explain the August raids in a September 3rd statement.
What happened in Al-Somaria was the result of the accumulation of problems of unjust expropriation and real estate corruption over decades of rule of the ousted regime. Legal committees would be formed to review the expropriation of Al-Somaria and the subsequent informal housing that have persisted for decades.
Marwan promised the new government would resolve these issues fairly and transparently without forced evictions. However, international observers aren't convinced. Maloon Kothari, the first UN Special Rapporteur on adequate housing, described the Al-Somaria raids as a succession of violations starting from the displacement to the fact that the community is now scattered and some are homeless.
Forced evictions are a gross violation of human rights. If the government in Syria is serious about complying with international human rights standards, then they are responsible for the violation of the rights of these people.
The timing of the evictions adds another layer of complexity. In early August, just weeks before the raids, the Syrian government announced a $2 billion metro project for Damascus. The planned system would include a transfer junction in Al-Somaria, complete with parking for hundreds of cars. The coincidence raises uncomfortable questions about whether development plans motivated the displacement, regardless of the stated reasons about illegal property seizure. Mohammed Al-Wawi, a 54-year-old cleaning supplies store owner in Muadamiyet al-Sham, represents the other side of this property puzzle. His family once owned land in western Al-Somaria before the ASSAD'S took it.
We gave up on reclaiming it years ago. Who would have thought the regime would fall like this?
His words capture the bitter irony of Syria's transition. The fall of Assad has created opportunities for historical justice, but it has also unleashed forces that risk perpetuating the same cycles of displacement and sectarian revenge that defined the old regime. The spray-painted symbols on Al-Somaria's walls aren't just markers of who stays and who goes. They're symptoms of a deeper question that Syria has yet to answer: whether the new Syria can break free from the poisoned inheritance of the old, or whether it will simply repaint the walls and call it justice.
A nationwide urban planning solution is needed that takes into account the issue of informal settlements. However, any solution must certainly not involve eviction from their homes in this manner.
The empty streets of Al-Somaria stand as a test case for Syria's future, where the symbols on the walls will determine whether this new Syria can truly build something different, or whether it will continue the same old patterns of displacement, just with different hands holding the spray paint.